As a real estate professional, is it unethical to not take what the seller is offering for compensation? Also, what is happening with home prices right now? We just saw where the US home price growth reached its slowest level in over a year. So, are we looking at a market correction?
Plus, what do today's buyer want or hate, as well as how do they finance their home purchases? My name is Ming Richardson. I'm the compliance manager for Maximum One Realtor and Realty Partners.
My name is Alan Richards. I'm the managing broker here at Maximum Realty and Realtor Partners. And we do the real estate backstory where we go over all the comings and goings, the things happening in the real estate world. So we want to start off with something that's kind of been flying around on the interwebs that we've kind of seen going on. And so there was a listing agent who said, and this is their quote, we got an offer and my client accepted, but the commission is not what the realtor requested, and my client is only going to pay 2%, and the buyer's agent wants 3%, and so the buyer walked away. How is this ethical? And kind of shaming the buyer's agent into like they should only take whatever the buyers or
The
whatever the
seller is
seller's
willing to
offering.
offer.
So, the thing is here is that we have to understand that this is not a steering issue. This is also not an
It
ethical issue from the realtor at all.
is an affordability because the
Yeah.
buyer absolutely cannot pay the down payment, the closing costs, plus the compensation. Because when they made the offer include the compensation for their side of the transaction.
See, one thing that listing agents have got to start having a conversation with their sellers about is buyer's agents aren't showing properties unless they already have a buyer brokerage agreement signed.
Correct.
That buyer brokerage agreement is going to state how much the buyer is going to negotiate with their buyer's agent
Mhm.
for compensation. Now, the listing agent, you don't know how much that compensation is, but when we're seeing offers submitted, they're putting that in there. Now, understand that these buyers already have a contractual obligation where they've already agreed that they have to pay this amount to cover their buyer's agent's compensation. If your seller says, "Well, I'm only paying them 2%; it's only worth 2% to me," that's not an issue for the buyer. The buyer has already got an obligation, and if they don't have enough cash to bring out at closing, or to pay out of their pocket, then they're going to go move on to other properties. So this is one of those fallouts from the NAR lawsuit that actually offers a lot of protections for real estate professionals for actually like in this particular instance, the buyer's agent had worked with their client for 6 months, shown multiple properties, and
The
really kind of
time, the
like
investment, the industry knowledge, and what they have to do in order to make sure this particular buyer is qualified and ready to
yeah.
go.
So just because the seller decides that it's not worth it to them, that's not their decision. Now, they can say, "Look, I'm not going to pay more than 2%," and they do have that absolute right to do it.
Absolutely.
But then they may also lose deals, like in this instance here. We're seeing where sellers are saying, "Well, I'm not going to pay anything," and do they have that right? They absolutely have that right. However, buyers need representation. Buyers want to have a real estate professional carry them through the most expensive, intricate um, transaction
Investment
that
that
they've
they
ever
will
done.
ever have. This is their legacy.
Yeah.
So, you can't take that away from them. And that's what they need in order to make sure it works.
We just want to make sure that folks understand this, because sometimes we get like experienced sellers, and sometimes those sellers may have a very high regard for real estate professionals and be like,
Correct.
"Well, they don't need more than $500. I'm going to pay them 1%." Well, guess what? They're not going to buy your house because the buyer can't afford it. So we just want to make sure that we're
It has
like
become an
ready to have that.
affordability issue. It's not just a one item, it's the whole package of the contract that makes a
Yeah.
difference.
All right, we want to kind of change gears and talk about what's happening with U.S. home price growth. So, CoreLogic just released their newest report, which comes out and says, "Listen, home price growth reached its lowest level. Actually, it fell for the first time, and it's
Hmm.
0.1 or 1.1% property value appreciation. Now, for the year, we're still running nationwide 3.9% property value appreciation, and that's still very, very healthy. You have to understand that home prices in the US, they don't go up by
Correct.
a certain month. Like we may have one month where they're up 0.3, another one where they're down 0.1, then they're up 0.4, then they're down 0.3, then they're like it moves like this through the whole thing. Now we are seeing where prices are leveling off, where we're not seeing where the rate of appreciation is astronomical, by like
It's
it
no
was.
longer a double digit rate appreciation. So,
Yeah,
so the seller needs to get that in their mind that that's not the case anymore.
yeah.
And matter of fact, with interest rate the way it fluctuate, it's all about affordability.
Hmm. So, but what's happening with the values is also kind of what we're seeing happen overall with just like demand. Demand is still really really high. Like if you look at the months of standing inventory that we had back in when we had the
Mm,
financial crash
right.
2008, for example, we were sitting on 13 months of standing inventory. We need 6 months for a balanced market, and we're currently sitting here in Georgia 4 months of standing
And
inventory.
currently, it is a balanced market here in Georgia, depending on
Yeah,
the price point.
yeah. I mean, we're kind of heading into a balanced market
So,
for
so
sure.
just because the 6 months is the standard does not mean that is the thing for the local real estate.
Right. And so what we're seeing is these value appreciations have really helped our sellers and our homeowners to be more equity rich. We've seen that the percentage of homes that are owned outright are continuing to increase. And so this is a really really this is part of well, not part. This is one of the major reasons why people own real estate is because it's where wealth comes from in the United States.
Absolutely.
Now here in Georgia, like the states where mortgages are most common. We,
Hmm.
we, we fall into probably the top third in the U.S. on there. But, right now, about 63% of our properties have a mortgage. That means that 36.8% of our properties are owned outright. A third of all the houses you see have zero mortgage on them. So when folks say things like, I'm expecting a crash and I'm seeing this, like, when almost 40% of the homes in the state of Georgia are owned outright, we don't see it, we don't have enough housing to begin with. We're not seeing anything like that coming into our future at all right now.
And occasionally there may be one or two because due to situation, it's more scenario than it is a just overall blanket of what people feel like foreclosure.
Yeah.
Sometimes maybe a state sale, sometimes maybe a divorce or death or whatever it is that they have to basically leave the asset.
Yeah. So now John Burns Research, they're one of the big brains, big research companies dealing with real estate data. They came out and said that there's a magic homeowner rate, mortgage rate, and it falls between 5 and 5.5%. If we get below five and a half
Hmm.
percent, then basically the wheels come off, is what they're saying. Now, we have seen mortgage rates fluctuating a little bit. They are bouncing up into the low sixes and even into the lower sixes kind of thing. But we're seeing where government loans, right, or government backed mortgages are running in the fives still.
Correct.
I mean, just this past week we were still rating out 5.8s and that kind of stuff. Uh, we're not very far from seeing a mid five mortgage rate right
Well, and
now.
I think the consumer confidence has to be up as well to ensure that they're buying a good product.
Well, but it is, right? I mean, the consumer housing sentiment hit a 30-month high this month. So our buyers, our consumers are feeling much better about what's happening with mortgage rates. I mean, it's the highest it's been in 2.5 years. Now, is it back to where it was at one point when everyone was like, I want to buy a home, like in COVID during that kind of stuff? It's not that high. However, we are moving in very positive direction, and that is so tied to interest rates. It's not even funny. As we've seen interest rates softening and moderating, we're seeing that consumer housing sentiment is shooting
Right.
through the roof. And so we're seeing more and more of that come, but we're also seeing where interest rates really are moving in the right direction. And we're going to see that kind of moving forward. The inflation numbers came in, those are softening. Job numbers are not great. Some were good, some are not. So we're still looking at a really good place right now.
We are, and the only difference between now and before is that we also have a very high credit card debt right now. So a lot of time that makes affordability a little bit difficult.
Well,
But But
like,
that said, for the folks that want to buy it,
well, they're out there,
they're
like
there.
right now, we have some new data we want to share with you about who our buyers are, what they finance, that kind of stuff moving forward. We just kind of want to bring you up to speed on how our market is shifting and growing and
Hmm.
learning right now. And when it comes to mortgages, for our borrowers, where are they getting their down payment from? Savings. That it's always great when you have family that can help you out, but still 70% of our borrowers, or 65 percent of our borrowers in that range, have get their down payment funds from saving. It is
Correct.
the biggest one out there. So and I know that we are not here to give financial advice, but this is financial advice that you can give, and it's true. If you want to buy a house, you have to start saving. It really,
Correct.
it's very, very basic.
And it's sometimes about changing your pattern and your habits.
Yeah,
So instead of going to Starbucks every week, maybe you'll skip it once a month.
yeah. Well, and for the
Excuse me.
folks who for mortgage buyers that have attempted to get to buy a home, what percentage of folks get denied? Almost a third.
Hmm.
And these are people who ultimately end up buying. 31% of buyers were denied the first time they tried. The first loan submittal they did was denied. They had to straighten some things out. What we're saying here is get your clients in early with a mortgage lender. Get them early, to figure out, like, oh, I've got this little thing over here. You need to pay this little
Hmm.
thing off. You need, like, all these kind of things, because almost a third of our folks end up having one denial. So that's a really big deal. The sooner you get them on the right path, the better off it's going to be. Now, we're seeing how much money our borrowers are putting down is really high overall, but that's because we have so many folks that are selling their home and putting a large equity down.
Correct.
Still, 7% of our borrowers are putting less than 3% down. 3 to 5% is around 11%. So almost 15% of our borrowers are putting 5% or less. That's for our starter homes and those kind of things. It makes home ownership much more affordable looking at that. So the old days used to be, hey, how much do you got to put down? You got to put 20% down. Do our buyers today have to put 20% down? No, we're not recommending that they don't if they have it, but you don't have to have 20% down to be able to buy a home. We want to make sure that folks understand that. When it comes to down payment assistance, our first time buyers are the most likely group to
Yes.
to secure or to utilize down payment. I mean, overall, first time buyers make up about 17% of our first time buyers jump on grants. 35% get low interest loans, and those are classified as either USDA or FHA
Correct.
in there. Another 20% have forgivable loans, and those are going to fall in the form of, like,
It's a
Georgia
local
Dream. Yeah,
grant, and understand those are only available when they have the funding. So the funding may run
yeah,
out as you're doing the application
yeah.
sometime.
But as a real estate professional, you got to understand that almost 60% of first time buyers have some form
Hmm.
of down payment assistance. And that's
That's
like
huge.
well, you as a real estate professional have to be ready to operate inside that space, right?
Correct.
So,
Who are today's buyers?
right? And so,
Millennial are the largest group of buyers right now.
yeah, I mean, like millennials make up the largest group of buyers, followed by Gen X. But what we found to be very interesting right now is, for the first time, Gen Z is a significant
It's a
part.
rising star.
Gen Z, more buyers are Gen Z than are boomers right now. What? I mean, boomers have been owning the market for a long time.
Well,
They
they
have.
were the
They've got a
largest
lot of equity,
population.
right? Exactly.
Yes.
But now we have more Gen Z buyers than we have baby boomer
So these
buyers.
are younger adults that are well educated
Yep.
and that do research and they do fact checking, and so therefore they're probably are more informed in their decision making.
Yeah. There are buyers today, about 60% of them are married or partnered. That means 40% of them aren't. Now, what that breaks out to is about 25% never married. So these are single men, single women buying homes, almost 25% of our market. And then about 15% are widowed, divorced, separated, that
Correct.
kind of stuff. So, it's one of those where I just see that overall as an industry, we don't really appeal to never married or single
No.
folks that much. I think we need to be able to reach out into these
We need to
environments.
know who our clients are,
Yeah.
and without knowing that, you're definitely not going to be
Hmm.
able to associate with them.
Yeah.
So, be just start looking at where your sources may be coming from.
Yeah. Now, our buyers today have more pets
Pets and
than they got the
kids.
cheerings. Okay, more pets than kids. Right now, buyers with children make up about 36%. However, buyers with pets, 75%, 76%. So 3 out of 4 buyers are going to have pets. Only a third of them are going to have cheerings. So, just to keep that conscious, that changes people's buying decision. We see
Absolutely.
buyers that make buying decisions based on the needs of Fido, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's Lassie want is now a concern for a lot of our buyers. Now, our first time buyers are still making up a significant portion because even though, and largely because we have so many more younger buyers moving into the market, our first time buyers are making up about 44%. These are 44% of our buyers have never owned a home before.
Correct.
That's a really big deal. Now, it's not as high as it has been in the past, but interest rates were higher. So we saw, or we should see, as interest rates continue to soften, we're going to see more and more first time buyers move into the market out here. Now, in addition to, for our buyers in the buying process, what are they asking for? And this is good information for both buyers as well as for our sellers to know. So for this is for listing agents to pay attention to here,
Mm-hmm.
because there's mainly 4 or 5 different contingencies that we normally see. And so on most contracts, and now these are national data, but about 56% do financing.
Correct. And out of that, 52% also have appraisal requirement because due to financing.
Yeah. 2/3 are making repair requests on the inspection
No
out there.
longer is our buyer willing to take the home as is,
Yeah.
because for them, they work really hard to obtain this home and they can't afford additional repairs.
Well, another area that we see is, as far as contingencies, that like we've only as an industry really started tracking that recently, and that is 24% of purchases have some form of mortgage buy down on it. That's
Correct.
really, really significant out there. Now, for our buyers, what are they not ready for? Because I found this to be very interesting information. Because basically they went out and said, "Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer,
Right.
what caught you off guard?" The number one thing out there that caught people off guard:
Is loan origination fee.
look, just because they quote you some kind of crazy rate doesn't mean that they're not going to smack on a bunch of fees on top of that. We've seen where, and overall, we are very pro lender. Okay, we're not trying to say anything negative about that, but this is one thing that these loan origination fees, sometimes they just kind of get snuck in.
Well,
And
notice it's snuck in because for the buyer, at the end of the day, is about how much that they have to pay every month. And lenders got to look at it and compare that to debt to income ratio. So when they do that, either the buyer can afford it or not afford it. And sometimes is there a fee in there, a hidden fee? So sometimes the lender look at the whole picture and see what the buyer's needs are. So sometimes the lender will automatically allow the buyer to do a buy down and therefore cause their closing costs to be much higher. But that's what it took to be able, so the buyer can be able to afford a home. So there's a lot of equation there. And if you don't know much about it, please talk to your lender and get educated.
yeah, the loan origination fees, the one that gets me though is sometimes there is some shady stuff goes on. I agree that there's a ton of expenses and those kind of things, and buy downs are crucially important right now. However, we're seeing where some lenders are adding on 1% to the total loan amount as an origination fee, and that can be tens of thousands of dollars that they're adding on just as an origination fee. Whereas some lenders, like Sharon, that our in-house lender has zero origination fees. That's a really good thing to
It's a
know.
plus.
It's a big surprise. The other thing that the second most thing that surprises them is that they didn't know they had to pay for the appraisal. All
Appraisal.
right, so this is
So
a communication issue, I think, on our part out there. The next one is that they have to pay state and local transfer taxes. That's part of it.
And part of that, and also title insurance for title search fee. That is required because there's nobody wants to go out there, purchase a property, and not making sure the title is good.
Yeah. So another point where they said, look, what do buyers want? Buyers want floor plans. This is a big shout out to listing agents. If you want your
Absolutely.
property to really stand out, put floor plans in it. Buyers, a buyer, in talking with the buyers and getting the reports from the buyers, about a third of showings would not happen if they had a chance to see the floor plans beforehand. Right?
Absolutely, because they want to know what the space looks
Yep.
like and how it flows and whether or not it meets their need.
Now, back during the
Pandemic.
2021, 2022, when home buying was going crazy, we saw all these folks making sight unseen offers. That has pretty much dried up. As far as like the number of offers that a buyer is making on a property sight unseen, it's down to like 4%. And even
Correct.
then, we don't recommend it. I don't think you should ever buy what could be the most
Well,
expensive asset and not see it with your own eyes.
our guard contract do protect us. There's a language in
Yeah.
there that states that if the buyer elect to buy a house sight unseen, that they don't hold us responsible. All we can do is give them the GBI website, the DEA website,
Yeah.
along with any data that's part of the contract.
I agree. I think it's tough because even though they may not legally be able to hold us accountable, I
Hmm.
don't want to go through that where it's like, well, I thought you said this house was pretty, or I thought you thought this was good, and that
Just
goes
remember,
that's a lot of
beauty is in the
responsibility.
eye of the beholder.
That's it.
So your definition pretty and someone else's different thing.
So next through, we're going to kind of wrap up here with what do buyers want in a home, and it's interesting because it changed this year. This year, what buyers want most is
HVAC.
air conditioning. Air conditioning is the number one
It's
must have.
hot. It's
Well, it
hot here
is.
in
I
the
get
South.
that, but like, what's funny is that just hasn't shown up as being the number one concern. In the past, the number one concern, which is number two now, is it in my budget? Normally,
Correct.
budget is number one. This year, like I don't care how much it costs. You got to give me some AC, okay? Because I'm melting here, right?
Yes.
But after that, it becomes that budget is the number thing. Then we move into bedrooms,
Hmm.
bathrooms, square footage. Outdoor space is really, really important. And then again, floor plans. Does the floor plan meet my needs? So that's a
Correct.
super important thing again
And
that we keep going
in
through.
today's professional photographer, most of them has a floor plan as a package.
That
I
will do.
would definitely highly recommend you get that so the buyer, or potential buyer, can see your floor
Or
plan.
use Cubicasi because
Yes,
it's free through there as well.
takes a little equity sweat.
Now, for our buyers, one of the big decision that they're making now, especially with so many people working from home, is what about my neighborhood? Like,
Can I walk in it?
the neighborhood is an important decision factor, and like Ming just said, the most important factor is can I walk in my neighborhood? Like is it because some neighborhoods are super tight, some have sidewalks, some are close to things that
Hmm.
folks can walk to. So like a walkable neighborhood is the number one most desired feature that a neighborhood has. After that, it's a neighborhood that has a sense of community or well-being or belonging. I think is the
So
right
if you have
word.
a neighborhood with a strong HOA where they throw annual parties or they throw different things during certain seasons, people like that a lot.
Well, it becomes a decision maker for them.
Correct.
So we hope that that you guys have a great week. If we can be any kind of service, please call, text, smoke signals. You can catch all of our contact info down below. Have a great week, everybody.
All right. Thank you.